this is a book there's no doubt. In their medicine, it's conjecture. 95 out of the statistical studies that we've taken, 95% of the people that do this treatment get better. Well, what if you're in that 5%? You're not in 5%. It's 100% for you that you didn't get better, right? So their science is not exact. It's based on conjecture. It's based on a type of kahana, what the Quran calls kahana, really. And also on hukm al-ada, which is making a judgment based on repetitive events and occurrences. Now, to look at understanding the past, where do we go? The first thing in understanding the past, there are two types of pasts that we can examine. I'm sure there's others, but these are the ones I'm concentrating on. The two types, there's understanding spiritually what took place in the past and understanding material what took place in the past materially. If we look at the matter from a spiritual point of view, or, and I would have a slash there, unseen, al-ghayb. In trying to understand the past, we have to understand what are the spiritual and the unseen influences that are involved in the history of the human being. Because these are real. The materialist denies them. He says there's nothing other than the material world. And some of them, like Hume or Kant, they say there might be other things, but we can't know them. The only thing we can know is the material world, and therefore we're cut off from it. And this is Kant's whole critique of the ability of the human being, of reason itself as a way of understanding the supra-phenomenal world, the noumena, or the world that goes beyond this stuff here. We can't understand it. It's impossible. So we cannot know metaphysics. In the end, what's beyond this natural world, it's not worth studying anymore, and now we move into deep material sciences. And so the pursuit of man in the Western world, which is very different from the Muslim world, and inshallah I'll try to get to that. The pursuit of the Western man, because again, in understanding our past, there are two pasts now that we really have to understand. We have to understand the past of the Ahl al-Kitab, and we have to understand the past of the people of Islam. Because the other players in this global scene are really, when we look at them historically, they do not have the same impact on Islam that the Ahl al-Kitab have, al-Yahud wal-Nasara. And when the Prophet ﷺ said that تَتَّبِعِنَّ سَنَنَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ شِبْرًا بِشِبْرٍ ذِرَاعًا بِذِرَاعٍ حَتَّى لَوْ سَرَكُوا جُحْرَ ضَبٍّ لَسَرَكْتُمُوهُ قالوا اليهود والنصارى استفهاما استغرابا اليهود والنصارى يا رسول الله من القوم إلا هؤلاء. You will follow those who went before you, the ways they went, handspan by handspan, arm's length by arm length, to the point if they go down the lizard's hole, you'll go down the lizard's hole as well. And in a riwayah in the Mishkat, حتى لو كان منهم من أتى أمه علانية لكان من أمتي من فعل ذلك. Oh, come on. Even if there was one of them that went to his mother sexually, there would be somebody from my ummah that imitated them in that. Now the Prophet ﷺ, he does not speak from passion. When they asked him, will we follow the Jews and the Christians, Ya Rasulullah? He said, who are the people? Man and nas. Who are the ummah? Who are the nations? Who are the civilizations other than those people? In other words, not that there weren't other civilizations. There were, and the Prophet ﷺ was aware of that. There were the Dravidians, the Hindu Kush, the Chinese, the Confucianist culture, the Japanese culture. But we're talking about the impact. Who is being imitated today? The Jew and the Christian. Nobody's imitating the Japanese. People aren't walking around dressed like samurais. They're wearing jeans and t-shirts and cowboy and baseball caps. When the Chinese president came here, that's what he did. He put on the cowboy hats and went to the hoedown, right? Not like Ho is a Chinese name. That's hoedown is what they do in Texas or something like that. That's what he did. You see, he comes, and you look, it's amazing, it's interesting, because in the pictures that they showed in the magazine, his wife, because China is still a deeply conservative culture. And when you see Hillary Clinton next to his wife is what these people would call a wallflower. Is a non-entity. There's no personality being expressed. And next to her is this woman glamorously turning 50, right? They worked very hard at it. So people aren't imitating these people. They're imitating these people here, the Europeans and the Americans, and in particular the Americans, which is a very interesting phenomenon. So we have outwardly, when we look at attempting to understand the past, there are two pasts going on that we have to be concerned with as Muslims, as attempting to analyze and understand the age we're living in, because we cannot be ignorant of our age. Sidi Ahmed Zarruq mentioned in his Qawa'id that in the Suhuf of Ibrahim, the Prophet ﷺ was quoted as saying in the Suhuf of Ibrahim, one of the wisdoms that Ibrahim ﷺ was given was عَلَى الْمَرْءِ أَنْ يَكُونَ عَارِفًا بِزَمَانِهِ مُمْسِكًا مِنْ لِسَانِهِ مُقْبِلًا عَلَى شَأْنِهِ, that it is incumbent upon an individual to know the age that he is living in, to take hold of his tongue, because that's the milak. That's the thing that will allow you to possess all of good in Islam, is to hold your tongue. And then to get on with what is your business. The Prophet ﷺ said, مِنْ حُسْنِ إِسْلَامِ الْمَرْءِ تَرْكُهُ مَا لَا يَعْنِيهِ. From the good Islam of an individual is that he leaves what is not any concern to him. So, in understanding this past, we have to know the Muslim past and the European and American past also. And I can't do that for you. You have to do your homework. The Muslims have to look. And they have to look in an intelligent way, in a sophisticated way, not in these simplistic ways that we've been given to looking at things for some time, looking at superficial causes, talking about the superiority of technology, as this is some cause in which the Muslims are defeated. SubhanAllah. If there's anybody in this auditorium that still believes that, they haven't read the Quran. And if they've read it, they have not understood it. Because the Muslims have never been defeated because of udda or adad. They're never defeated because of udda or adad. And it's very interesting to note, many people don't know this, but between the period of 1920, the early 20s to about 1938, there was active resistance against the French in Morocco. Abdul Karim al-Rifi, Jazahullahu khairan wa rahimahullah, one of the great mujahids of this century, killed 3 times as many French, his people, his army, during that period than were killed in World War I. People don't know that. They don't know that the Muslims were putting up a resistance. Now, there are causes that have to be understood. We have to understand what they are in a deep way, so we have to look at history, because history explains many things to us. Now, if you look at, and you can understand it at an archetypal level, you can really do without history if you have a deep and profound understanding of the Quran. I guarantee you. If you have a deep and profound understanding of the Quran, because Quran is history at its archetypal level. It is history that is constantly repeating itself. And by archetype, I don't mean it I'm really using it idiosyncratically. I mean it simply that it is explaining to us human phenomena. So we can see the pattern repeated again and again. We can see Musa and Fir'aun and see that struggle with all of the prophets and the oppressors. We can see that struggle again and again, and that's why it's repeated so many times in the Quran. So looking now to look at some spiritual and material forces, we can go back to the first and primary concerns, which takes you to the Quranic narrative in understanding what goes wrong right from the very beginning. Because the Quranic narrative is very powerful in that Adam alayhi salam, his wife Hawa,